back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, the podcast celebrating movies and filmmakers that embrace the insane, the outrageous, the unhinged, the off-kilter, and the all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy who's just fine watching himself get gutted,
Alex Dandino. Griff, let me ask you, have you ever been on an island where they just let you do whatever you want?
That's the only kind I go to, Alex.
Well, it's good that you're part of our Discord, because for just $1 a month, we're basically this island in Infinity Pool.
Yeah, the hotel in Infinity Pool should have just been called Whiter Lotus. Whiter Lotus. And that's what we do.
That's it. There it is. Right there. Yeah, for $1 a month, you get get in on our Patreon. We let you get on the Discord. You get access to some exclusive stuff, but not all the exclusive stuff. For that, you need an extra 4 Washingtons. You need a full Lincoln for the extra stuff.
I was like, okay, I do work in an elementary school, which will shock many people, but I was like, I do this math a lot. Come on, Griff, pull it through.
Well done.
Yeah, guys,
well
we
done.
have exclusive episodes that the patrons vote on. All kinds of fun extra stuff we're working on. Our Black Mirror miniseries is being fed by Netflix, a new season of Black Mirror that we're diving into. We would love to have you over there. Creep Tapes is coming back. We've got so much fun stuff over there. Make sure you go to the Misfit Parade YouTube, subscribe there to see video versions of the pod, shorts, and other content we're working on. MisfitParade.com, so you can keep track with the newsletter of us making our first feature film, Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. It's coming. It's coming into the world, so get there early. We're on all the socials you're on. Those are great ways to find things to send your friends. The thing we really want to get across, if you guys want to help us out, let your movie-loving friends know what we're doing. Send them a clip, a reel, a TikTok, an episode, whatever, and we'll take it from there. 5-star ratings and reviews also always appreciated. Speaking of horrifying reviews and Yelp reviews, today, we're continuing. This is the month of May, right? This is our first May episode. The theme this month, the curation we're working on, is kind of a new life, a rebirthing process, right? That we have shed winter from ourselves, and we're trying to regrow and become new things. April showers bring whatever the fuck happened in Infinity Pool, the Brandon Cronenberg movie. Alex, would you like to hit us up with the opening details?
Yes. Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool obviously came out in 2023. I don't know if that was obvious, but I'm going to say it was obvious. Came out in 2023, starring Alexander Skarsgard, Mia Goth. Those are probably the top. Cleopatra Coleman, obviously. Those are the tops. The rest of them are, let's be honest, foreign actors that you're not going to spend any time paying attention to.
Oh, how dare you!
I know our audience. No, I'm kidding, guys. There's actually a lot of.
This is making that Whiter Lotus joke seem a little more loaded.
Well, I'm working on it, actually. Actually, there is one act. The guy who plays Alban, Jalil Lesper, he actually is one of like the best actors in the world, apparently, and he is crucially awesome in this film. Thomas Kretschmann's in it too. He's also a great actor. I'm just kidding. Either way, for those of you who haven't seen Infinity Pool, let me just give you a real quick one. The film follows a struggling writer and his wife on vacation who, after an accident, discover the country's dark culture.
That feels like not enough.
That's an incredibly glib way to put this. Do
it's
you have one from IMDb, by the way?
Dark culture.
So this is the Wikipedia
White's
one.
Dark underbelly.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing in this movie.
Yeah, what's the one from IMDb that you're reading?
So it says, James and M. Foster enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of Tolqa, when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. Again, I think both of these synopses have a critical flaw in them, which is they are pointing at the island and the result.
It's
as
not
the
island.
genesis of the bad fucking
these
behavior.
People.
Yeah, it's not their fault. Like Jeffrey Epstein's island was not the problem.
It wasn't
was
the property.
People that came to the fucking island.
It's not like you showed up at the property and like, I'm just going to commit heinous acts of life.
You know, like the first explorers that found Epstein Island weren't doing these crimes. Probably other crimes, but not these crimes, right? That is the thing by the people who go there. This is not the island's problem. So essentially, a brief recap up top, right? What the movie is essentially, what the synopses are getting at. they kill a guy in a drunk driving accident, right? Skarsgard runs this dude over.
Right.
He's trying to drive back to the resort drunk, right? He ends up being questioned and interrogated. He's found guilty. And they say that on this island, that the remaining family, right? So this guy's 9-year-old son, this farmer he murdered, has to kill Alexander Skarsgard to keep his family's honor intact, right? Immediately like, well, this is fucking taking a turn. This is wild. This is not the movie I was expecting to watch. Fine. What the movie is really about, there is a set infinity pool, right? Which is this kind of murky maroon liquid that these people step in. And if you have enough money, you can pay to have an exact duplicated replica of yourself created. And then you can sit in the fucking cheap seats like it's an old-timey freak show and watch your new self get fucking murdered. This is the dark underbelly the island's talking about, is that once these rich white people discover that they can do literally whatever the fuck they want, pay money to get themselves cloned, and then that clone takes the price, all bets are off, and these people start indulging in their wildest and worst fantasies, right? It's the grown-up version of Where the Wild Things Are. It's Lord of the Flies. It's these people, because there's always this underbelly in movies like this. We talked about this in like The Beach, right? These rich white people that go to places that are third world countries almost, right? Like when Amy and I went on our vacation to the Dominican Republic, some of the scenes of crushing poverty you drive through to then get to your all-inclusive resort that you're not supposed to leave is a pretty stark thing to see in person. This movie really amps that up. That what if the people who come to this place and do these bad behaviors struggle to see the people of this island or their culture or anything in their system as even human? The fact that they commit crimes and have to watch other versions of themselves get killed and essentially get off scot-free, they take as an insult and ramp their behavior up. So this, again, I think is just unfurling. When you're rich, when you're an idle rich, you want to find, because you've got all the trappings, you've got the money, you've conquered industries, this and that. What's the next high? And this movie presents a very fascinating array of answers to that question.
Sure.
Well, let's start here, because you actually were texting me. This was my favorite movie of 2023. Okay. I think your exact text was, wow, this movie is dumb.
I was like,
you did not like this movie.
I was just like, this movie's kind of dumb. Like, it's... By the way,
walk me through this.
Okay, so here's my thing. This feels like two movies that got smashed into... This feels like two ideas for movies that got put into one thing.
Okay.
And you're like, all right, mixed results, for me at least. Again, I don't think it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's not... You can't look at it and go, oh, terrible movie. That's insane. Like... It is a well-made movie. It's a well-crafted film. I just like the basics of it were... Here's the thing. When we talked about this with Last Night in Soho. When I have enough time in a movie to start thinking about the like ramifications of like the actual thing that's going on, I'm like, hey, wait a second. Half of this doesn't even make sense. And you're like,
and the thing is not enough movies let us stop and think anymore, right? They just give us this nonstop KFC bucket buffet style of just think. I applaud movies that stop and make us think. There is a point in the film,
but see,
where you start unraveling this, and you're like, wait,
but that's
at some point, doesn't the government have to protect the
but that's
other
not
rich
what
whites from the rich whites?
Right. What I'm not saying that movies don't let you stop and think. Like that's not what I'm getting at. Thinking is an important part of watching movies.
Well, good movies, yeah.
Yeah. What I'm saying, like Last Night in Soho, we talked about this a lot. Like Last Night in Soho is just fucking awesome, and it's so good and keeps moving enough to keep you thinking. But what you're not doing is that thing we were talking about, which is like I'm trying to guess what the ending of this movie is. That's like the critical assumption that a lot of movies fail to. The critical thing that a lot of movies fail to accomplish when they're doing stuff like that, which is like, oh, I'm going to make a movie that's really thought provoking and interesting. I'm like, cool. However, if you leave someone for 5 minutes with that and then like, hey, wait, that part doesn't make sense and this kind of is left out and those kinds of things, like that's bad filmmaking. Like there's a level of like that's bad writing. There's something that just doesn't quite work there. For me, what happens with Infinity Pool isn't bad, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm really thinking about the ramifications of like this technology and like
Sure.
how this works on the island and all the other things. And because, and this is why, it's because I get so bored with what is going on with these people. I'm like, I don't give a shit about these people. Like after the initial infinity poolness, I just stopped caring about these people. And that's not to say it's bad, but I just like, I don't give a shit what happens to these people. Like they've done the terrible thing.
There is kind of 2 points in that I somewhat agree with, but just they hit me differently, right?
Sure.
I do think it is one of those movies, to your point, while it is kind of a machination game, right? What is the end point of this technology? This movie essentially ends the first time he watches himself get stabbed brutally by that 9-year-old. What we know we're doing for the rest of the movie is not, what does this mean?
Right.
It's more of a, how do you live in this world? I guess it is exactly what you mean. I'm wrong already in my own sentence. It is a, how do you live in a world after you've watched yourself get killed? When you realize that there are places on Earth where human life has such little value that you can take one, reprint yourself to get killed and just watch that and then go back to have a fucking Mai Tai, right? So this isn't a movie about a plot or the machinations of how the next infinity, self is going to happen. It's literally just, how can you fucking live in that world anymore, right? We talk about this a lot. There are all these movies that you think after that movie, how can that guy go back to his job at State Farm on Monday?
Yeah.
Like the world is essentially ruined, right? It made me think of this Albert Camus quote, right? Where he talked about that the fear of living is not death, right? Death is an end, it's over, whatever. The fear of living is waking up every day and facing the exact same monotonous, never-ending, relentless grind of time. That every day you're going to do the exact same thing, get the same results, have the same fucking meals, maybe you even exercise and do stuff like that. It's still this monotonous fucking sludge until we end. Unless you end up on an island where you can do whatever the hell you want and just get away with it, right?
Right.
So this is the what happens when you're allowed to live as completely unburdened as you want. And I think the movie, while clearly going for more of an art house headspace, right, than being a well-thought-out science fiction film, it's just asking us the same question of a lot of stories I love. What would you do if you could actually do anything? Take away the responsibilities and the whatever. I think James is a little fucking aggressive, because when he stays at that place and wifey leaves, this bitch is broke. James is about to be fucking broke and maybe gets 1-2 more copies. Like, he's not going to be able to live here for long. But I love movies that take place in this kind of primordial ooze myself.
Sure. I like the initial concept. I like the question. Look, I don't have a problem with the question being asked. I think for me, a lot of it lies in the execution and the elongating of the circumstances. So like, it like the core of the movie, like I think it ends when James has to watch himself get stabbed to death. You're like, whoa, that's fucked up. Well, literally, there's nothing else to explore because I don't know. For me personally, I would not be okay with watching myself get murdered because
you
I
kind
murdered
of get
a guy.
like, this is about to be a relentless madcap adventure into what else can we do?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then once the lid's taken off the pot and you realize like, oh, it's just rich whites who have like nothing else to do but kill people and get away with it and make copies of themselves and do it. Like, the macabre of it all is the thing that's really got to float you through the rest of the movie. And again, 80% of the time for me it worked. However, when it starts to drag for me, it really drags where I'm like, oh my God, like I get it. All these people suck and they're all rich and they're all just going to come back and do this again. I understand. Like there's like,
right.
I think that's the problem is like the point is just like, if like the point is the nail and the movie is the hammer, you have like broken wood in half in terms of hammering the nail through. Like,
well, there is definitely a point where, like, by the time they're kidnapping that politician who has the weirdest, like, clamshell crotch I've ever seen, whatever's going on there, right?
Whatever's going on there.
It's another one of these, like, we want to reinforce that this system seems insane to us, right? And here's this guy who's clearly just profiting off of this doubles thing, right? He's got the best booze, and he's banging women that have no reason to be in bed with him. He's got great cigars, whatever. They're coming to pay him back for the insult, right? That how dare he destroy even a replica of our rich white integrity. We have to pay that back. The only thing they'll understand is, power, respect, power. Game, respect, game. It's one of those moments where you're like, all right, I get, but we don't spend any time with the corrupt politician explaining away how life would be different on this island after this technology, right? We see a guy on a four-wheeler who's just like running over a picnic basket, and they're like, oh, what's happening? Oh. And Mia Goth's like, they want to make a statement. They slice our throats and hang us at the airport to scare away tourists. And you're like, all right, that feels like something someone in the movie at some point should address, besides the detective being like, our island's not a playground for fucking bored old people.
Right.
But we just refuse to engage, right? And I think that's the point where you start doing these mental exercises. You're like, how have these fucking people gotten off the resort like 4 times?
Yeah.
I know, because what the movie insinuates is that they're obviously not, because you would think this is a Jurassic Park setup. You'd have snipers on all the perimeters.
Right.
And you treat these rich whites like they're velociraptors.
That's what I thought we were heading towards. Is like, oh, none of these people have left the resort, and they're actually like, they're basically like, they're indentured tourists or some shit like that.
But you need them to get out and commit their crimes so that you can get more money, right? But then again, it's one of those, the lensing of only the rich whites does kind of limit an important and interesting part of this movie, which is, what is it like to live on this island, right? To be a 9-year-old who has to kill your father's attacker, but they know it's not the real attacker. Like, they're not stupid. They would see him in the bleachers watching this. How about the guards who have to commit these executions every day? How about politicians being like, wait, we're going to let these people kill us? I get to be corrupt for like 3 months? Speaking of that execution
scene, though, this is the thing that fucking boggled my mind, and also just like, I was like, wait, just like, stop this real quick. He is so well lit in terms of viewing space while that double is being murdered. I'm like, if anyone looked out into the audience, like, excuse me, that fucking guy's right there. What is going on here?
Wait, is that the guy who fucking put tire tracks on my dad?
Is that the fucking guy? Yeah. Who's this guy? Like,
and then he runs over and kills the real James, and it's like, well, now you have to go to jail.
He literally had a key light over his face. I'm like, it's guys, we should at least shadow these people.
Well, there's that.
So is this an open secret? That's the thing.
Yeah, after they get caught with the politician and a gunfight breaks out, they're all in the room, right? And they're talking about what they're gonna do, and they're not scared because it's doubles. The detective comes in, and this is one of those things where you're like, this is a movie lever that I don't think actually works. Like, it's one of those missteps of the film where he's like, I think today we're going to prove a point because you guys aren't getting it. Yeah. And they drag him out with their butts hanging out in those, like, fucking hospital gowns. Yeah. And Skarsgard breaks out, and he's like, ah! He's getting a little Northman in him, right?
Yeah.
And, not North Suburb man, right? Like Northman. And he's ready to fight. He's got a knife, and he's taken down. They slice his throat. Well, then in the crowd, we just hear, woo! And they're cheering, and they're all watching as all of their throats get slit down the line, which is one of the wildest scenes in the movie to me. But again, it's one of those where you're like, why is the detective tough-talking the one-day-old clones?
What's the lesson? What's
the tough talk?
We've learned no lesson.
Talk to
no
the
lesson has been gleaned.
Who are going to go back, like the orgy stink crowd that's about to go back to the island and throw muffins around continental breakfast.
Also, this is another thing, too, that was like, it's just like kind of this. Again, I liked the movie. I was just like, it was just a little bit dumb, but it was like, it was one of those things. Just like it was stuck where I was just sitting there. I'm like, okay, if you come to an island in a foreign land, and you're like willing to leave the island proper, like your willingness, because okay, I've done this before. Like, when we went on our honeymoon, we went to Costa Rica, and I don't know if you did this in the DR, but like in Costa Rica, we went with like a tour group with like people from the hotel, like people who managed the hotel. They took us into a small town. We like did our tourist thing where we like ate or like bought like little knickknacks here and there. And then we came back to the hotel. That was the thing. I'm assuming this hotel is sort of the similar thing where you're supposed to stay on the property. Like, really, like, unless you're like, there's no way you should be leaving the property, which we find out only after the fact.
Unless they know you're like,
unless they know you've left with someone from the property.
Dick is stuck to his leg. He's ready to go out and commit heinous crimes, and you're like, cool, great.
Yeah. So here's my thing: is there are clear rules for staying at the hotel. that don't get established until at least 30 minutes into the movie. I'm like, these are key components like that I need to know specifically about, like, you know, oh, if you accidentally kill someone, like,
well,
that reveal
again,
and that's fine, because like it's not like anyone goes on vacation to murder anyone.
Scene, right, where they're all like post orgy, and they're just throwing glass and breaking shit, and there's like other old people who are like, oh, and they're leaving, and I was like, in this world, this would not be a well kept secret. Like, you think these rich white people aren't going to go back and immediately talk about how rad this is? No one's accidentally going to this resort. Like, if you show up to this resort, you can be like, yeah, you could save the goddamn dog and pony show of, like, The Mask and singing, like, your ukulele songs. I'm here to get down. Like, that's what I'm here to do. So
I'm here to cause a ruckus.
Like, even at the end, when Mia Goth and them pull over the bus, and they're like, I'm going to start shooting everyone unless the coward James comes out. It's like, the government can't let these other whites be catching strays. That would cripple their tourism. You're like, that's cool that I can commit crimes. But if crimes can be committed against me, that's no longer as fun, right? So, again, I agree with this at a world-building level. What I think the movie does is it tries to add these things that feel like they're layering on to the reality of the island. And what I really want is just stick with the art house place. Let me just watch people being pure hedonist and play with that. Like, that's enough for me to ponder the question of, what would I do? Because as I watched this with my wife, she's like, that's terrifying. And I was like, dude, that's like, I don't like to travel at all. You'd get me to go to that place for sure. Like, I talk to my friend Cloud all the time, and I was like, you wouldn't, like, kill a guy once if it was okay just to, like, know? Right? You wouldn't eat a person once if it was cool? Like, come on. Like, we all have this side of us where these things are, like, unexplored.
But see, and that's the thing. That's the thing that makes the movie worth watching, is there's a ton of unexplored questions you ask yourself throughout the movie. Like, would I do this? Maybe, maybe not. Like, those kinds of conversations you have to have with yourself. Like, anytime you watch people do things that are so outside to the societal norm, like eating people, murdering people frivolously, like, those are things that are frowned upon generally in society. So when you see people do that in movies, you have to ask yourself those questions. And, you know, a lot of the time, I think for fodder, we always say, oh yeah, I mean, at least once, right? You'd always check it out. I can tell you, watching this movie, this is the first time I've watched something like this and been like, I would never participate in anything like that. In fact, I'd be like, I'm leaving this hotel immediately. These people are awful. I do not want to be around them.
Well, my liberal guilt would make me feel bad if I went to an island and did this. But, like, if a small town in rural Alabama was like, hey, we just, like, homegrown Klansmen here. You guys can go out in their town and do this. I'd be like, fucking A, dude, that's great. Then I don't have the shame and guilt of a colonizer. Now I'm just cleaning up America, and that feels nice.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing.
It's like you're people that go hunt at, like, a stocked, like, range. Like,
right, but now you're rationalizing it so that it works for you. This isn't irrational.
What I'm saying is I think that so many of us rationalize all the time. And I think so many of us get caught in the doldrums of just being a human being. Right. You throw in a job, you throw in bills, you got a kid, responsibilities, you got a wife, and all of a sudden it's like you can go to this island and bang this guy's wife while he's sucking your toes. Yeah. And then after that, you can go out and, like, do kidnappings and, like, pretend it's the purge. There's a part of me that was like, I absolutely get the wish fulfillment. Now, I am not wealthy enough to fully partake in this. Okay. I would be more of a background character in this movie, which is not who you want to be.
Can I ask, did they ever specify the amount of money it costs? Or was it just that stack of cash?
I mean, in my brain, I was like, this has got to be something like 25 grand, right? Like, it's something
you think it's only 25 grand?
I think it's something you got to be able to do 3 or 4 times and not break the bank. He is a penniless writer who married a woman whose father is a rich publisher, right? I don't think he's sitting there and, like, they have millions of dollars in the bank, right? But you're like, dude, that's a Prius. I can kill a guy for a Prius? Like, okay, I can do this on vacation 4 times, right? Like, that's where I had it in my brain. 25 to 50 grand is the number I settled on. Because you're like, if this is $1 million, I don't care how good of a failing naturally actress you are. I know what SAG people make. You're not fucking clearing $3 million to go out and commit crimes. Your husband's not sucking a giant Norwegian man's toe.
You think it's 25 grand?
I think it's under 100 grand.
Interesting.
Maybe 100. Maybe you set the number at 100.
I feel like the number's 100. Just because.
But I'm telling you, it's not a million.
It's not a million.
It's something that feels reachable.
Sure.
Right? Like, you could go out and, like, for the cost of my home, I could do 3 or 4 massive crimes.
I think this is actually something that Brandon Cronenberg did really well, is by not revealing the actual amount, we have no gauge for what version of wealthy these people are.
Well, yeah,
we just
also,
know
if
they're
you
wealthy.
said it at $1 million, like, your inner adult who pays bills would be like, that's outlandish. You said it at 25, and you're like,
if I saved,
I could probably scrape together 25. You know what I mean? I could call in some favors for a vacation.
If I save, no more eating out. Couple of bills paid out.
Couple more patrons, and all of a sudden we're on the island. All
of a sudden we're on the island.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think that
actually is a brilliant addition.
You
put a number on it, and then people all of a sudden are doing hard math. You don't want people doing math. You want people asking, do you want to bang Mia Goth?
Right.
And have the wildest week of your life. And most people are going to say yes.
It's really a brilliant move.
Is it Goth or Goth? I don't even know what I'm saying.
Goth. Like Goth. Like,
Goth.
Oh la la.
Like Goth Muscle Mommy. Like my algorithm. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Your algorithm, yeah. I do, I think it's a brilliant thing not to put a number on it. I also think it's really, like, I think Alexander Skarsgård does such a good job being this guy because it's a character who keeps going back and forth whether like it's someone who wants to be a piece of shit and then doesn't want to be a piece of shit and then like sees how bad he is as a piece of shit.
I think he likes what Skarsgård pulls off in this so well. He's a writer, and I love that scene where they're dog walking him down the street.
Oh, dude, and they're like,
and Mia
nice
Goth's
book,
like hammering
idiot.
one, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I old-timey printed out a bad review of your book and just reads it to him." And I was like, "That's like the cruelest thing in the movie, perhaps."
Yeah.
And it's like he's this writer who has nothing to say and less words with which to say them.
Right.
And so I think he's this loser. His wife even jokes that the only reason they're together is because her dad didn't approve him. Seems like dad was right. So his whole life is just this, like, he's this stuffed suit. He's a nothing. Everyone who looks at him knows he's a fraud, a charlatan, right? The only thing he did was happen to marry money and just be insanely tall and ripped and handsome. That always helps.
Yeah.
Right? But he has no actual merits of his own in the film. And I think there's something about the writer's mind that you're like, if I just go deep into this, I will get that one human experience, right? I'll be a modern Hemingway who really saw some shit. And I will uncoil the rolled up ball of what it means to be a human. And I think you even see he's just not even that guy. Like, he's just too cowardly to even fucking take this to its logical extreme. Because one of the most, because there is a bit in the movie where I feel a sag a little bit. So I was like, so you're telling me you can go out and commit crimes. They come back and his wife is in bed and she's just like, how did you watch yourself get murdered so robotically? Yeah. He's got nothing. He's like, all right, I'm going to go out. Mia Goth's out there, whatever. And he comes back with another urn. They give you the urn of the duplicate.
They give you I love Thomas Kretschmer's like, bit of a souvenir. And I'm like, ew, dude, what the fuck?
Dude, you know, if this was real, you'd be going to rich people's houses and they'd have like bookcases of those fucking things.
Oh, yeah.
It would be like with pride and honor.
It would be like Iron Man's Iron Man's
the Iron suit exhibit. The
Iron
Batman's
suit
like
vaults.
cave with all the old suits. Yeah, prototypes.
Like, whoa, damn, you've killed yourself a lot. Jeez.
This was my when I napalmed a whole village. That was that trip. Wild. Cancun 012. Yeah, or whatever. It would be fucking crazy. But so he comes back and his wife sees he's got another urn, right? And she's kind of got this. Oh, he's caught the bug. And he's just like, all right, leave, fuck off, right? He tries to call her back because he knows she's the only thing of value in his life. And he's now in the rabbit hole. There is a bit of the film where I was like, you can commit any heinous crime you want. And really all they're doing is just drinking and doing orgies and like smoking roots and then throwing muffins at continental breakfast. I was like, that's when they haven't fully evolved yet. That's the boring person's. We have a get out of jail free card, literally. Because I was like, you can just orgy whenever. Like, if you grew up watching HBO Real Sex, there's not even a hotness threshold, which these people already would have hit. Like, they were ugly, unattractive, hideous chuds of human beings that are just wrestling each other all the time in like shag carpeted living rooms. Like, it's out there. So like, that's not a worthy time spent on Crime Island to me. So you sag a little bit. I think the movie gets more interesting. Because I also thought the thing with the politician was just, it asked more questions than I think it was willing to examine, right?
Agreed.
The moment when the movie really kicked in for me is when he thinks he's beating up the detective. He's ready to kill the detective who's blocking him from leaving.
That was pretty sweet.
Lost his passport.
That was nice. That was a good one.
And he beats the shit out of him. They're all cheering him. He pisses on him, right? And they pull the hood off, and it's his duplicate. Now, this is something I thought was another one of those. I'm like, I'm not sure legally that Mia Goth and husband can go down to headquarters, right? And order an Alexander Skarsgard duplicate.
Ordering.
Because I was like, could I just, like, I see Mia Goth after the first crime and be like, those people are uncool to hang out with, right? Like, Dare, just say no. Like, I'm not into this anymore. But for 25 grand, I can roll down to headquarters and bring a Mia Goth replica back to my room to do whatever unseemly crimes I want to commit. That seems just generically wrong. They do say this is a corrupt government where money talks. Where did they get this duplicate? And then this in Skarsgård, he's like, ah! He's like, when it's me, this is an affront. I was about to kill other people. When it's me, this is an affront. He's like, I'm going to leave now, dressed like a fucking, what is it, Dockage or whatever, from Jurassic Park. We got Dodson here.
Dodson. We've got Dodson here.
Yeah, he's dressed like Dodson from the opening of Jurassic Park. And he tries to leave. Now we're doing this weird choir boys from Lord of the Rings. Mia Goth and them have this hard-on for him. Do you think they were actually just playing with him the whole time? Or do you think they were offended that someone saw what they were doing and deemed it beneath them? What do you think was actually happening in this moment?
Like, why
she did find a Kinko's at some point, which is an incredible addition to the story.
Wait, you're asking why they beat the duplicate?
He beats the duplicate up and he runs, right?
Yeah.
He gets on the bus as Dodson.
Right.
When they chase him down, she's like, "You're pathetic. This was
you mean
were
why
just
they
a bit of fun on our vacation."
Why they perp walked him?
Do you think they actually thought he was just a bit of fun, or were they actually mad that someone didn't understand the gift the island was giving them?
No, I think it's very much like this is an extension of like hedonism and like classism. Like to me, because he doesn't belong. He's an interloper.
She also is like, I didn't read your book, and he's like, you jerked me off on the beach and spilled my seed on the rocks, and she's like, bro, I've jerked off.
Yeah,
so
come
many
on,
people
please.
on this island. What are you, a child?
I think his inability to see that he's not one of them is probably like the thing that keeps me hanging on through a lot of the movie.
Well, I think it's Skarsgård's whole character is just being someone he's not.
Yeah, it's an imposter thing where you're sitting there and, you know, he's a writer, but he only wrote one book. It was 6 years ago. His wife basically foots the bill for their lives. And like you even catch the tension rub a little bit at the very beginning. I think that I don't think it has anything to do with, it's strictly just, it has nothing to do with like, you're not part of this. It's like, you are not part of our thing. You're an interloper. We're just having you here. Like, and again, at first you're kind of like, why and what's the extension? And then when we get to the end with the dog, that's where you're like, oh, that is absolutely what this is. Because like, I'll say this, Brandon Cronenberg does such a good job on closing the loops on these stories. And that was like, that's a great little, like, that's the great parentheses on the end of the coda, like, or however you want to put it, whatever. Bad metaphors. But that, like, is a great beat to end that question of, like, does he? No, not at all. Not part of the gang at all, 100%.
Well, it's like, even one of those, you're like,
it's great.
We're watching him. So they're kind of chasing him around, right? He tries to flee. He wakes up. He comes back, and they've got him, right?
Yeah.
And they hand him a knife. They're going to have him fight the dog. And the dog is himself on a leash now. The dog he beat the shit out of is like, "Urgh." And he's Mia Goth's dog. And you're like,
yeah.
Also a great vacation. Also, I'm really into this. Like, this guy's just winning left, right, and center. Right? Neither here nor there. And she's like, I'm going to have you kill this dog. And he's like, no, you pick up the knife, do it. And the dog lunges, and they're fighting.
Yeah.
And she essentially says, this is you need to reach your fully formed self. We want to see what kind of creature you really are, right? He fucking beats the shit out of this dog, punches a hole in his own face, which is such a stark image, right?
Pretty intense.
Like, just the kind of image I can't get enough of, moments like this in movies, right? And then he turns and he's covered in blood and he's like, "Argh!" And his fist is all fucking droopy. And you have to start thinking, you're like, so is this like the weirdest Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants thing where every new couple every year had to do this?
Yeah.
Because at the end, when they're all leaving, they're in like sweatpants and look like normal Target people again. Right. And they're just like, hopefully we'll see you next year. It was really fun, James.
What are you doing? Did you pay the babysitter? Yeah, I totally paid
and
the
so they're talking about all this minutia, and he's like, so is this something they all went through, and now it becomes this like,
it's like
society of hedonists, right?
Right.
And they just throw on the weirdest thing that I still don't think I can even explain, like at an image level, why, except for it's cool. Which a lot of people who want to make these kind of movies are like, let's just put cool, weird shit in it, and people will assume it has meaning. Where Mia Goth just lets him suck her bloody tit.
Oh yeah,
like she's mom. I was like into it. Like again, this is better than every vacation I've ever had. I think that's one of those moments where you have to call bullshit on people and be like, is this some kind of loose, like he is now a newborn babe that she's suckling with her non-lactating teats? Is the blood the lactation? Is that the life force of this? Again, I think it's just one of those things you throw in to throw. But earlier in the orgy kind of art house moment, we did see this undulating fucking like probios fucking nipple that's like meh, meh. So I don't know, there's something about nipples in this. Maybe I'm not classy enough to know.
Maybe it's just one of those art house things that we're not smart enough to understand, the nipple thing. But I did. Okay, this is going to. So he's on the bus with them, all talking about their like regular daily lives. Like, oh, I have to get back to work. Oh my god, it's gonna suck so much. I do love the ending of this movie. Like, I think it's a fucking awesome way to end this film, which is all these people have lives to get back to. Like, this is vacation in the truest form. Just because it's extra fucked up doesn't mean that it's not still vacation. Like, they vacated their lives. What you realize about Alexander Skarsgård's character is he has nothing like that. He's always on vacation. He is this sort of just like doldrum of a human being who's just
he's the character she claims that she plays. He's naturally failing every day.
He's just blank. Like, he has nothing to give. So him sitting there at the airport by himself at the very end, like, damn, dude, like, rough. And like calling your wife, like, again, for it to be about like these hedonistic couples and then this one single guy, essentially. It was such a fascinating thing for this to be like the way this movie ends, which is just him alone on the beach during monsoon. He's like, fuck you. Like,
just like a James Blunt video. Just
you're just like, you're a piece of shit. Like, you have nothing to contribute other than just sitting there.
Well, again,
and I think that's like,
I like the tag because so it's cool. How could you go back?
Yeah. What else is there for you?
Like, when you push the boundary so far, and again, for 1 week, watching himself get murdered, the fear of punishment, the orgies, the fact that Mia Goth thought he was a good writer and this beautiful woman wanted to fuck him, even though his wife is insanely beautiful. It was something he thought he had earned. He had written himself as a new character.
Yeah.
He sucked the bloody teat. He was given new life, right? Changed his diaper. He's a man now.
But he's...
How could you go back? How could you go back to being the side piece?
But it's all, I mean, that's the thing is, it also is just about how uninteresting a person is who thinks they're interesting. Like, he has nothing else to go back to. He's not writing a new book. He's not.
Well, you think he can't wait to go back and write?
Yeah, why would you not write about this? Like, Jesus.
And again, I think it's one of those. It also has this very like addiction parallel metaphor to me, which is some people can fucking just do some coke and have fun. Some people can smash some beers and have fun. Some people do that once and they're like, this is my defining characteristic now. I'm never alive unless I'm high or drunk or pushing the boundaries.
Right, right.
And he feels like a guy who got caught, right? Like, he found a life. He enjoyed this horrifying journey. He, at his very core, is the person who was under the grotesque mask they all wear. The rest of them can take him off. He can't. He can't blend back in. And I think that image has this air of nobility. Like the sad, he doesn't go back because he wants more of it. He goes back and has to sit in this purgatory because there's nothing left. He literally died on this island.
Right.
But I actually don't think there's nobility in it. I think it's just this kind of awareness of an unlived life and just how fleeting and pathetic this whole thing was for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just over. I think he just sits in that chair and fucking drowns.
Yeah, I agree. He's just he monsoons himself to death.
Because he's literally about to get cut off from his wife's fucking money.
Yeah,
and he won't be able to infinity anymore.
Yeah,
like there's nothing for him back home. There's nothing for him here.
And that's how uninteresting of a person he is that he had nothing more interesting than being a vacation infinity person. So maybe
now he becomes like the surf instructor at the resort, and he just watches all these other hedonists.
Maybe that's how they collect these people to work at the resort.
Or and he's like, every 2 seasons I can save up $25,000 and get one more night of this. Like that's his life. He's Paul Rudd in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, who occasionally gets to do murders and orgies once every 3 seasons when the check's clear.
Would that not just be... That is like the thing that I like about the ending is because, again, going back to what I originally said, the feeling I had, which is like I get to like think about these things, you extrapolate that out, you're like, wow, that is that guy. Like he's just a piece of shit who sits on a lawn chair for the rest of his life. Like he has nothing else to contribute. And it's because he chose to be this person.
Yeah, rising above the stagnant pool. And then going back and like
going
clocking
right back
in
down
on Monday and having a boss who shit talks you and you're like, I fucking killed a man. I punched a hole in my own face. You think I'm fucking getting shit from you because I was 5 minutes late because of traffic? I'm going to fucking rip your dick off and shove it down your goddamn eye socket. Like I think it asks a really beautiful question, right? This is a man who seemingly has the dream life, who, while having no merit other than his insanely hot self, he made it. This guy's living the dream that so many of us think that we want, right? To just be idly rich, to have written one book and whatever.
Absolutely.
To have the beautiful rich wife and the beautiful fucking bank account that her father's going to leave behind. And he's still so fucking empty. And I think that gets back to that fear that Camus was talking about in The Stranger, which is eventually you hit a point where you realize that all of these things we're told will matter don't. And that there is a primal, primitive self that we have neglected and do not give oxygen and food that's always right there. And the first time you feed it, you can't fucking put it back in the cage. And how many of us would leave our lives, the lives that other people we know cherish and envy and are covetous of, to just have this 1 week? That 1 week has more value than the entire rest of the time you've spent on the planet. And I do think that asks a really harrowing question of the audience, because I bet it would be more people than you think.
I agree.
I really think this resort would just be full of terminally ill people.
Probably.
Like this becomes the new Make-A-Wish. You're like, yeah, I don't want to meet John Cena. I want to go strangle a prostitute. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to do with my last 3 months. Right?
I mean, is there a... it's just such a fascinating question to ask yourself. Again, like, there are aspects
That's
of this
not
movie.
me. That's a figurative character I was inventing and writing. No,
Sure,
that's not my own personal thing. I would love to meet John Cena.
I've met him. He's a very nice guy. It's one of those things where, for a movie that I didn't find, I'm not overly enjoying this. It has enough things in it for like asking yourself questions. Like in terms of filmmaking, yeah, it's a great well-made film. In terms of story, like it didn't really do it for me, but there was enough questions to ask about the movie world itself, like that made it worth watching to the point where I was like, I can enjoy this even if I don't think it's like the greatest movie I've ever seen. It's still a good movie.
I don't think that at a kind of thought level, it's always as clear as I was wanting, or it adds extra elements that help make a more interesting arena to ponder. What I think it does, though, is it has incredible fucking performances.
It does.
And so watching actors this good kind of wallow in this Lord of the Flies, The Stranger story, that is infinitely fascinating to me. And again, I just want movies to be more interesting. And this movie is nothing if not wildly interesting to me at every turn.
Certainly that.
And again, Lord of the Flies is my favorite book ever, so maybe I'm really kind of captured in the headspace of these kind of questions.
Who knows?
But I found this movie infinitely fascinating. I will say it's not always the most fun rewatch.
Sure.
Because I do think there is a griminess to it. But I personally like that. I would personally probably cash it in for Mia Goth and pure hedonism. I would be the dog, right? Like, this seems awesome to me. I just finished another fucking Tuesday at work making dog shit money doing something where you're like, how did I end up in this job? Or
I ask myself that every day of the week.
You can go down with a machete to a local Subway and just fucking lay waste like you're Jason Voorhees. I don't know. I could see how I could be convinced. All right, Alex, what's the most messed up moment in Infinity Pool? Of the myriad of messed up moments in this movie.
I mean, you know what? Okay, this is like, again, I like the smaller ones are always the smaller moments are always the messed up ones that get me. It's really flippant, but I do like it. When he comes back in the room after they're like shooting things. The first night he's with all the heathens, and he's shooting. They're like shooting something, and this guy puts his arm around him with the gun in his hand, like, "Don't worry about the gun." And I'm like, that is so fucking weird. If you were in a room with someone who's just like, it's fine, don't worry about the gun. That whole thing, like that moment, I was like, this is horrible.
Well,
terrifying.
It's the moment where the safety of I can get away with anything, and you're like, so can these people.
So can these people.
And if you don't slam that scotch and come abduct the guy with the weirdest crotch ever, you're going to get your brain splattered. That is terrifying. To me, the scene that I really am like, this has to be the most messed up moment for me, was just watching the guards go down the line and slice the throat of all the copies of these rich white people while the rich white people cheer from the crowds. There's something...
It's really
movie's
macabre.
Constantly about the destruction of self and the rewriting of self. There's something about watching that and being so protected by your kind of wealth and your lot in life that it doesn't even faze you. That was really stunning to me.
It's macabre.
Yeah, because when the 9-year-old kills the copy of him and he cries and wails, you're like, I guess you would get that because that's justice, right? This is so assembly line execution. And they're just absolute. This is like the second time we've seen it too now. So it's literally like it doesn't matter anymore. That one really sat heavy on me in this viewing. And I think it's the most messed up.
Yeah.
Maybe the sucking the bloody nipple, but that's just a good party night to me. I don't think you're going to get a lot of ethical debates on that one, if I had to guess. I hope our wives are listening. This is what we expect moving. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get myself Infinity Pool.
Not me.
Yeah. That's it for Infinity Pool. That's just the beginning of our new life, new rebirth curation this May. We hope you're enjoying it, guys. Please go to our Messed Up Movies podcast Patreon to support the show. It absolutely means the world to us. It is the lifeblood of Misfit Parade right now, and we appreciate it so much. Tons of great stuff over there. Also, we love to hear from our patrons how to make that even more awesome for them. So please join us and let us know. Go to misfitparade.com so you can keep track of our movie as we're making it. Go to the YouTube, subscribe to Misfit Parade. That helps us out a ton. Thank you. We're on all the socials you're on. What we'd really like is if you could take shorts, clips, TikToks, Spotify episode, whatever, send it to a movie-loving friend, especially if we talk about a movie you know they love. We would appreciate that so much. 5-star ratings and reviews, all the good stuff. Thank you for spending time with us this week. This is going to be an incredible month of pods.
Sure is. Love ya.